Israeli politics are something that I always find interesting because of countries that have more or less real elections and an actual democratic political system. They're probably the most dysfunctional in the world I can think of. The only countries that maybe come close are Brazil or Italy, and maybe there's a couple others. But at this point in time, Israel is heading into its fifth election in 4 years, which looks set to resolve basically nothing and will probably be heading into a sixth election in the foreseeable future. Not only is Israel more or less ungovernable at this point in time, but there's a number of ticking time bombs, demographically and politically speaking, that can make the situation exponentially worse in the next couple of decades. I think there's two main reasons for this. The first reason is that Israel has a proportional electoral system, and unlike a lot of countries that have proportional electoral systems, Israel is unusually ideologically diverse for a democratic country. In a lot of Western countries, you will have kind of a political center, and most people will either be kind of generic center right conservative or generic center left liberal. And then you might have some kind of moderate social democrats or some conservatives who are a bit more free market. But the more kind of political extremes, like the right wing populist, right wing nationalist, or kind of the left wing populist or the communist parties, tend to be a lot more marginal, and they often don't really have a chance of forming government. The best they can really hope for is to maybe be the kingmaker if the main center right or main center left party needs a couple more seats to prop themselves up. This is not the case in Israel, and you have a sizable proportion of the electorate that votes for far right religious parties, as well as far right secular parties, in addition to your typical mix of socialist, kind of centrist conservative, centrist liberal, etc. My point being, proportional representation really spreads it out among all these different, very ideologically diverse factions. It makes it more or less impossible at this point for anybody to form a governing coalition. That being said, let's kind of take a look at a bit of the breakdown. It was kind of hard for me to come up with how to even represent this video because it's so complicated and people change their party names constantly. But let's just kind of take a look at what I was able to come up with. So we have here Excel because only the best for you guys. And basically I took the various political parties and tried to break them down into broad categories to kind of give some idea of what a coalition would look like. So Israel has a substantial Arab minority, and the Arabs will generally speaking either vote for the joint list, or there's another party which is kind of the right-wing Islamist party, and that whole situation is kind of confusing. Either they'll run as a Big Tent Arab party, or they'll run as a left-wing Arab party that will try to coalition with the Israeli left, or they'll run as a right-wing party who's not going to coalition with anyone, and whose entire purpose is to prevent anyone from getting a majority. While generally speaking, they'll only get about 7 to 10% of the popular vote, that translates into about 10 to 15 seats. Keep in mind the Knesset only has 150 members, so that means, like I said, about 7 to 10% of the seats are completely unavailable, more or less, for coalitions. And given how close a lot of these elections tend to be, and how hard it is to form a coalition even excluding them, it's more or less a recipe for total political instability. So let's look at kind of the different factions and how the vote shares changed over time. So I've tried to put these groups into different categories. So maybe just taking a look at how I organized them. I have United Arab List, which is, this is the most this is actually, you know what, we'll go here. This is the most recent election. So we have Joint List, which is the left wing of the Arabs, which hopes to coalition with the Israeli left. You have United Arab List, which is the Islamist or right-wing portion, who will not coalition with anyone. Then you have a selection of centrist, that is liberal or moderately socialist parties, which collectively tend to make up a plurality. They tend to be the largest group, although never really a majority, because the majority of Israel votes for right wing parties. Now, you would think, okay, if the right wing parties are a majority of the electoral vote and a majority of the seats, can't they just form continual coalitions? The issue is that that's not what happens. Because Israel has both religious right parties and secular right wing parties, and they don't really like each other. So you'll have, I can't pronounce this, Yisrael Bentunu, however it's pronounced. And it is a right-wing nationalist party, but it is a anti-clerical secular right-wing nationalist party whose motto is an end to Orthodox Jewish rule. So they will not partner with the religious parties, and so they hold just enough seats, and them and the Arabs kind of collectively hold just enough seats to really prevent the right from getting a majority. Now, we have the interesting case of Likud, which is kind of the center-right to right-wing party. They're kind of approximately fill the place in the political spectrum as the Republicans do in the United States. And they are kind of ambiguous when it comes to their religious policies. They're a conservative nationalist party, and a lot of their voter base are religious Jews, but they kind of prefer an ambiguous status quo. And because of that, they're in the position to coalition either with the secular right or the religious right, but they can't coalition with both. So whenever there's been a Likud government in the last decade or so, what tends to happen is they'll partner with the religious parties, and then they'll try to get the support of someone else, be it the secular right party or some liberal or centrist party, but then you'll get an extremely unstable coalition. And once again, if you have a government, even if like all the right was to kind of coalition together in some of these, you would be left with like 65 seats or something like that. And that only takes a couple retirements or a couple people changing parties to lose your majority. I'm not sure how tight party discipline is in Israel compared to a country like Canada. But if it's loose at all, like it is in the United States, I'd imagine it's pretty easy for governments to lose confidence votes. So it's more or less impossible to really get a majority of more than like 61, 62, 63 seats, which, like I said, is nothing. If a couple people get the cold, then you can easily have the government overthrown in a confidence motion. So that being said, let's look at a couple different recent government formations. So this is from 2019. And as we look at this, okay, we have the religious right parties and Likud supporting Netanyahu. And in this point in time, the secular right-wing parties decided to support Netanyahu. I believe, though, they did eventually withdraw their support from it and shifted it to another one. You also, of course, you can see you have the issue of the Arab right-wing parties not supporting anybody. At this point in time, I think the Israeli Communist Party and the Arab List ran together, and so they didn't support anyone either. And then we head into the next government, which is a bit more of kind of what I was talking about, where you have the secular right-wing party who's not voting for anybody. You have a collection of liberal left-wing parties voting for the blue and white or Zionist Union or whatever it's called candidate. And basically no one's really able to get a majority. Like if you look at this, it's okay, 55 to 54. Neither side has a majority. There's really nothing that can be done to kind of resolve the situation. We also, on top of this, we will have parties like Yamina, which are both secular and religious, so they can go either way when it comes to a coalition. So, like, looking at another one, once again, we have, like, the secular right-wing party that sides with the left to form government. You have a another case in which, and this time the Arabs decided to vote for the left and try to form a coalition with them. But even then, like when you get to the actual coalition, it's something like 61. It's the bare minimum to have a coalition. And you don't think that like a far right secular nationalist party won't vote against this coalition if they try to do something like implement a two-state solution. I mean, that tends to be what happens. And once again, just kind of looking at this stuff again, you'll have, in this case, there was a right-wing party that decided to not endorse Netanyahu, and that prevented anyone from getting a majority. And so we had another hung government. And once again, this just seems to be the direction that the country's heading in, that no one's going to be able to form a stable government in the foreseeable future. And they're just going to have an endless stream of elections. But realistically, I don't know how long it's going to last. The religious right has been gradually picking up votes over time at the expense of the secular right and kind of some of the other parties. And the ultra-Orthodox are very demographically, are expanding very quickly demographically. So I could see them becoming a larger and larger part of the coalition. I don't know if they'll realistically ever be big enough to just have a majority on their own, but you might get to a standpoint where they're getting consistently like 35 seats, and Likud's getting 35 seats, and it's enough to form a somewhat stable coalition. And the kind of the far-right religious parties, who knows what kind of policies that they might start pursuing. If they're going to start pursuing revisionist Zionism, they're going to try to revive the concept of Greater Israel, start rebuilding some of the settlements, reoccupy the Gaza Strip. Who knows? And what makes the situation even worse is most of the supporters of these parties are exempt from military or other forms of service. So you might have these warmongering parties that want territorial expansion, but no members of which are actually going to fight in the war. They're going to make people from these other groups who don't have representation in the government fight in these wars of expansion and conquest. And so who even knows what's going to happen? I mean, is there going to be a military coup at some point when the army, which is composed of the people who are fighting in these wars, but who have no say on the government because none of them vote for the parties that form it, what are they going to wind up doing? Are they going to overthrow it? Is Israel going to have to change its electoral system? You also, of course, have the ticking time bomb of the Arabs' rapid population growth. And they can't prevent the Palestinians indefinitely from having elections. I mean, what if Hamas wins in the West Bank as well as the Gaza? The whole situation is bad, and it's becoming more untenable by the day. So while Israel certainly isn't a failed state at the moment, it's definitely heading in that direction. And unless they can somehow resolve this political crisis, it's just going to get worse as time goes on, as you have a completely rudderless state with no real leadership. So that's kind of my thoughts on the matter. Like I said, I couldn't really figure out an easy way to kind of represent this, so this was the best I could